Right.
And then you said, well, because of my gastric bypass, I can't drink that much, and that one beer was the reason that you were intoxicated. But Miss Williams, you blew a 0.17, which is twice the legal limit. And so if your stomach prevented you from drinking more than one beer, there is no way in the world you would have read a 0.17.
I had just drank that beer and then
Ma'am.
I started another one.
Ma'am,
I'm sorry.
I've tried WI cases for 28 years.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you do not get a 0.17 from a couple of beers. You do not.
Another Miss Bonnie Jackson mic drop. We are about to watch the parole hearing of a woman who is serving a 10-year sentence for her 5th DUI. I'll unpack it with all the details at the end.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have before us Ms. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning, ma'am. Would you introduce yourself to the panel? Tell us your name and your DAC number.
Sherry Williams, 631282.
All right, let me introduce the panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renanza. To my left is Mr. Roche. To my right is Mrs. Jackson. I'm going to read some information into the record, ask you to confirm that information, and then we'll be asking you some questions. We also have with us Mr. Derek Williams, your son, and at the appropriate time, we'll call on him. He's indicated he'd like to speak on your behalf. And at the end, you have to make a statement if you want to.
Okay.
So you are Sherry Williams, DOC number 631282. You're classified as a second felony offender. You're here before us today for a conviction of operating a vehicle while intoxicated. 4th offense. You were sentenced January 4th, 2021. You are serving a 10-year sentence. You have an adjusted good time date, November 19, 2022, and your full term date is November 19, 2029. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So your case was assigned to me, so I'll start off and be the lead in asking the questions. So you were actually sentenced to 20 years. Is that right? Was suspended or placed on 10 years was suspended. And then you have a 5 years probation as well.
Right.
So you've been on supervision before.
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you do?
I completed it 10/28 of 20 in full.
Satisfactorily?
Ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Were you ever revoked?
No, ma'am.
You were not revoked in December of 2014 for failing to complete a court order program?
Okay. Okay, I was on, for 2014, I was on probation. I was revoked and I got that DWI in 2017. And then I completed the parole since then on 10/28 of 20.
So you have been revoked at least twice, according to what I'm looking at.
I only
You
been,
had supervision before that looks like in my records shows you've been revoked twice. But let's move on. How many times have you been arrested for DWI?
4 times. I think it's 4. I know I got 2010, 2011, 2 2011s. I got 3 within 9 months. And then I've been arrested 5 times for DWI.
And most recently, I believe you were arrested while you were driving a vehicle without an interlock device.
I actually had one in my vehicle at that prior time. I got in my boyfriend's vehicle and drove, and I did not have an interlock in there.
Okay, so tell us about you. What, are you an alcoholic?
I guess I guess I am. I didn't drink till I was 44 years old and never drank, smoked, or done drugs in my life. And I lost my mom, my dad, and I got divorced after 27 years. And I got 3 DWIs in 9 months. And both my kids went to college, and I kind of lost it, you know. But I've been together, you know. I was a great mom, great daughter, sister, and everything. And when that happened back then in 2010, I just like lost it, you know. I just felt alone and everything. And I had a very hateful husband going through a divorce after 27 years, and it's just a lot to deal with all at one time.
So you were sentenced, though, as you were convicted for those 3 within 9 months and then a subsequent in 2014. The court tried to help you out to send you to a program, right? And why didn't you finish the program?
I did finish that program. Those things are wrong. I have my certificates and everything. I completed Dr. Young's program, an 8-month program, and everything on my pre-sentencing here, and it doesn't show that, but I have that.
So tell me why you have a subsequent DWI.
I relapsed and decided I need to go drink a beer and drive over across the river and get a beer on a Sunday, and I got a DWI. I don't know why I started drinking again in 2017, but I did. And
so your drink was beer, your drink of choice?
Right. Yeah, and I've had gastric bypass surgery, and I can't drink hardly any. And I'm drunk.
Oh, so that's what it is. So it was. You said you drank 1 beer and you got a DWI.
I drank one Bud Platinum. That was all I drank, and I registered a DWI, you know. But you know, I had prior to that one day, I drank I drank 2 beers when I was doing yard work and decided I needed another one like at 5 o'clock, and I got in that vehicle and drove. Bad choice.
So let me, so since you've been incarcerated, how long have you been in jail?
Since 1/4/21.
A little over a year. And during that year, what have you done to address your alcoholism?
I've taken Living in Balance, the 6 months program. I've taken risk management, another substance abuse program. I've completed both. And, you know, I've really took a big look at myself. And
So what did you learn about you?
I've learned that I take responsibility. I love myself again. I hate myself before just doing that to my kids. And I have a grandchild now that's 18 months old. But prior to when I was in jail, like in when I got arrested on 4/24/17, stayed in jail. I bonded out. My son got married. I wanted to go see him get married. And I stayed on 2 monitors for 2.5 years. I never violated those at all. House arrest and alcohol monitors. I kept all of that straight. And I come back to jail to take my sentence. But prior to coming back to jail, I checked in and done a full, you know, a inpatient rehab at Pecan Haven Rehab. And I completed it with Tiffany St. John. And she has also recommended me to do my 320 hours of community service there at Pecan Haven Rehab. And I am still enrolled in an intensive outpatient program there at Pecan Haven. I'm going to upon release, I'm in the intensive outpatient program, and I'll do all of my 320 hours of community service there. She really helped me a lot. And sorry, I'm crying. But anyway, she helped me a really lot, and she's willing to, stick it out with me, and she knows how I am about my kids and my grandkids. And I have another grandbaby due May 31st of this year. And I have a great support system. My daughter and my son and my boyfriend, and I have friends and family that I've been there forever for me. But like I said, I've lost all my immediate family, and that really done me in there for a while. But I'm really better. I'm bad about crying when I talk about my kids and my family because
So let me ask you some more questions.
okay.
So it seems as though you've really given some thought to playing for sobriety.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Tell me about, when I look at your arrest history starts in 2009,
Right.
before
Right.
2000, that you mentioned. But I see things that are concerning. I see domestic abuse, battery. These are arrests, not necessarily convictions.
Right.
Harassing phone calls, resisting an officer, simple assault, simple battery of a police officer, more harassing, theft. What is all that about? What
Had
have you been drinking on all of these occasions?
every one of them. Yep. And I had a affair with the Monroe police officer, and back in 2009, and I was told by the police that if I would say I was harassing him, that he wouldn't lose his job. So I went ahead and told him that I was harassing him, but I was not. He was harassing me. And it was really embarrassing because I've never done anything like that in my life. I had a 25-year marriage that I was perfectly happy. 2 kids. They both are professionals in career. One's a doctor and he graduated in criminal justice. And I was just really embarrassed because I embarrassed my kids. I embarrassed me. But when I drink, I don't remember, and I fight. I fought the cops and don't remember anything. I left when I bonded out of jail. I went back and apologized to them because I knew most of them growing up, and I live across the street from the Ouachita Parish Sheriff. And it was very embarrassing to me because those people were my friends. And, it just, I don't know. I cannot drink. I cannot drink alcohol. It's a poison to me because prior to my 44 years, I never did, and I never had any problems. And my ex-husband caused me a lot of problems that looked like it was me. But my kids said, Mom, well, if you get a dad arrested, in other words, I took the blame for it all. I didn't want to have him arrested and then me be arrested too, So I would just say, it's me all the time. And I took the rap.
Since you've been incarcerated, have you seen a mental health professional?
Yes. Well, I don't.
Are you followed by a mental health professional? Do you see somebody regularly?
No.
Do you have a job there?
No, I have a back injury. I really can't do anything.
Are you enrolled in any classes?
Yeah, I've already finished my classes.
All of them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So there's nothing else available?
Do what now? I've done living in balance, which is it covers absolutely everything. And risk management covers absolutely everything. And I've completed and graduated both of those classes.
Right. All right, thank you. Ms. Jones, is there anything to add?
No, ma'am. She said Jones.
Yes.
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Ma'am, appreciate it. I can see it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
Well, let me
go ahead.
ask you a question. It's one of the things that concerned me, and you kind of glossed over it in your statement. You were ordered to have an interlock device vehicle. And the reason for that was to prevent you from being able to start a vehicle if you were under the alcohol. And you chose to bypass that by getting in another car that did not have that device.
Yes,
Why
ma'am.
did you make that decision, Ms. Williams?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Why did you make that decision to try to get around the interlock by driving another vehicle?
On that particular day, which is the only day I did this, is I knew that my family was.
We don't know that that's the only day you did it. That was the day
Oh.
you got caught for doing it.
Well, I know
Why did you,
personally
why did you,
because I was scared if I got in my vehicle and that blower from previously, which was like 6 hours prior to that, I didn't want it to ever wreck.
you got in the car specifically to go and buy alcohol? Ms. Williams, that's what you said.
Yes, ma'am. That's why I got in. I'm being honest. That's what I did. I got in that other vehicle.
So that you could go and buy alcohol and be able to start the car up.
Right.
And then you said, well, because of my gastric bypass, I can't drink that much, and that one beer was the reason that you were intoxicated. But Ms. Williams, you blew a .17, which is twice the legal limit. And so if your stomach prevented you from drinking more than one beer, there is no way in the world would have read a .17.
I had just drank that beer, and then
Ma'am.
started another one.
Ma'am,
I'm sorry.
I've tried WI cases for 28 years.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you do not get a .17 from a couple of beers. You do not. And it takes a while for that alcohol to be absorbed in your system. And so you're not going to reach that high immediately after consuming an alcoholic beverage, because it has to be metabolized into your system. And so what I'm hearing is a lot of denial about the extent of substance abuse disorder. You know, when you sit here and you make those excuses, that tells me that in the future, that's going to be an issue also, that you're going to continue to find to either get around the interlock device, make excuses for you to. That concerns me.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the DWI is one of these crimes. You're in a crash.
Right.
In this last year, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I
The
couldn't.
single car, stop talking, the single car accident. It was a single car accident, correct?
Yes, somebody ran me off the road.
Somebody ran you off the road. You didn't do anything. It had nothing to do
No,
with
no,
you.
No, I'm talking about somebody did. It was a wreck, but anyway, no, it was something to do with my drinking. I admit it 100%.
Well, you know, the thing about a DWI, Ms. Williams, is usually it's not the drunk person who gets killed in an accident.
Somebody else.
It's innocent people.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you've been very fortunate with all of your DWIs that you haven't killed anybody.
Yes, ma'am.
But as a member of this board, I am personally concerned about the safety of the public when there's an individual who persists on drinking and driving, and then you try to go around the interlock device that prevents you from being able to do that. So that's a real issue for me.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I just want to understand that, okay?
Okay, I do. And I had that interlock. I had it for,
What's the point of having it if you get in another car that doesn't have it?
and I'm not ever, I'm ever gonna do that, but on that interlock, I had it for,
Ma'am, it doesn't matter for how long.
I know, I was.
It matters that on that day, you got in somebody else's vehicle. And I suspect that there have been other occasions where you've gotten into somebody else's vehicle to not have that device. That is a real concern for me.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you talking to me, and that's all I have, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
All right. We'd like to hear from Mr. Derek Williams. Derek?
How are y'all doing?
Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to say there was a time if you were to ask me to speak on her behalf, I probably wouldn't been on this Zoom meeting in, past. I would have said there's no way in the world she needs to be out because I can't trust her to not drink and drive or to not drink and do something that, in result ends up in jail again. But after, I speak to her at least once a week, and I have for, since she went in January of 21. And my daughter, she was born in September of 20, so she got to see her a little bit before then. And this is my gut feeling, and I've thought about this, and I don't know, finally, I think everything's finally the actual how would you say, I don't know the word essentially, but I think everything is finally coming to, like, there has been some major repercussions. And, now that my granddaughter's here and I have a son on the way also, I think the finality of everything is finally coming to, and she has finally stopped blaming everything. There's finally some extreme ownership going on. And prior, when she had got out, she didn't have a purpose. It was just like, okay, she's out and she is with, a prior boyfriend or whatever have you. And it was just like this, no guidance, no direction, just sitting at the house, and you're just sitting there, obviously probably thinking about drinking because, she'd become a full-blown alcoholic at that time, which, she is not lying. Like, I could not remember a time. Sorry, I'm like all over the place. But prior to my dad and their divorce and everything, I'd never seen my mom drink. I mean, the only person I've seen drink was my dad, but I mean, not in excess of any sort. I mean, maybe at like a crawfish bowl or something like that. And she talked about how her mother and my grandparents, they died pretty close between each other. And me and my sister, is like an empty nest situation. We kind of started doing our own thing. We didn't need her as much as we used to. So she kind of lost a little bit of that motherly direction and everything. And I think everything just compiled on top of each other and just led to that. And I think her avenue was drinking, and unfortunately, which, the gastric bypass is one thing, but I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have a gastric bypass, whatever, it's just the drinking in general. But as goes for the future, what I was saying is prior, no direction, hadn't had a job, And that's what I told her forever is you need a job, you need a purpose, you need something to get up and go do every day. You know, you need your mind occupied towards something else other than thinking about the past and thinking about drinking. And in the future, I don't think, the best she did was when she had the monitors on her, the actual, leg monitors for alcohol and everything. And I don't think she should ever drink again because she obviously cannot control it. But with her boyfriend now, Ken, he's a really good guy. He doesn't have any problems. I mean, I've looked at him and asked people about him, and I know him personally. He has a job for her to give her, a sense of purpose, to just get her on the right path forward. And I mean, I don't personally think, and I know she probably thinks that she doesn't need to drink ever again also. It's just something that she can't control. And I guess I'd like to reiterate, like, yeah, I don't want to blame, other things for it, but she had been a great mother. I couldn't ask for a better mother, for those, up until we were, 18. I was 18 and my sister was 16 at that time. And up until that point, there's no abuse, there's no craziness, nothing like that. And it was just like a flip had switched when all these events occurred at the same time. And, the drinking was just fuel to the fire on all that. And I think now, that she has this grandchild, that she gets pictures sent to her every now and then. And then, I have my son that'll be here in 2.5 months. If that's not a wake up call for everything else, I don't know what ever will be, essentially. But I think she's finally taking ownership, not blaming other people, not blaming whatever it may be at that time. But I mean, she's making strides. She's going to classes. I think she needs to go to a mental health professional for a little bit, maybe while she's still there, possibly something, because I think there is some deep down stuff still down there.
So Williams, can you wrap it up for us?
Yeah, that's pretty much. Anything else I could say is, I know there's a lot of things, you've listed out some things I haven't, remembered in a long time. I hope in my heart, and I think this is the most motivated and the realization of her mistakes and her actions have finally come upon her. And I guess I'll leave with that.
All right, thank you, sir. We so appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with us. Ms. Williams, is there a brief statement you'd like to make to us before we go?
I love my son very much and my daughter, and I just wanted to let you know he is so right. On those 2.5 years I was on that house arrest prior to coming back and taking my sentence, I have really had a major wake-up call that nothing is more precious than life. And it's passing me by, and I have hurt my kids so much and so much embarrassment. And I would just love to get the chance to be with my grandkids and my kids and my family again, because I've got a lot of time making up. I just miss home, and I miss them, and I miss work, and I miss having a purpose in life. And I just want to say that drinking, I just don't ever think I will ever drink again. And but I am gonna definitely stay in touch with my 12-step program and my counselors and stuff, and really you can't do this stuff alone when you got problems that's still deep down inside of you. But alcohol is not the answer at all. And I don't care if I ever get my driver's license back. I really don't, but I have to work. But I would just love the opportunity to get out and show people that I can really do it, because I have not drank anything since 2017. Like I said, on those 2.5 years I was out, was absolutely perfect, and I like the opportunity because I'm going to be on 5 years home incarceration again when I leave jail.
Right. Well, thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
We're ready to vote. I'll put the first. Ms. Williams, I have listened intently to what you've said. I've listened to your son. I appreciate his thoughts. And what I keep hearing you say is, I don't think I'm ever, I'm not convinced of that. And all I have to go on is your history, what I see in the record, and you know what that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do believe that you have some more work to do. I do not believe that you have a full understanding of the disease that you have.
Yes, I do have it. I do understand it. And I do feel like
Not being able to express that to us today.
it's good.
I do believe there's some programs that are there that you could take advantage of. That, you have a good time date, in November or so. You're going to be getting out in a few months anyway. But there's things like Thinking for Change, I think would be beneficial to you. I think that there's, you can have a mental health evaluation. I'm going to ask that you submit to one of those. But there's some programs that would be a benefit to you that you haven't taken yet. You haven't taken all the programs they have to offer there. Ms. Jones knows the ones that I'm talking about. So for those reasons, and the opposition that's been expressed, my vote today is going to be to deny your parole, but I do wish you well.
Okay.
And I do appreciate your plan that you have in place at the Pecan Haven. I hope that you still can pursue that. Good luck to you, Ms. Jackson.
Ms. Williams, I'm really glad that you started the process of recovery. I'm glad that you started to prepare your relationship. He sees you from a different perspective. He sees you as a son. He sees you as, someone who loves you very much. And he hears that you take ownership. But for me, I haven't heard that ownership. What I've heard is a lot of buts. Every statement you make is followed by a but. And a but is an excuse or a justification. I think that you have made some progress, and I'm glad to see that. One of the things that sometimes really coming to terms with something means accepting your situation and accepting your circumstances. You're going to get out on November 19th of 2022. What's the big hurdle? When you're too anxious to get out, that tells me that, maybe you're not ready. Because if you were, you would buckle down, you would do these last few months, you would take advantage of every opportunity that you have to be equipped to get out and stay out. You know your history, you know how many times you've been arrested for DWI, you know how many times you failed, in maintaining your sobriety. And you should be willing to stay there and continue to work on yourself so that when you do get out, you're in the best place you can possibly be, because they cannot keep an ankle monitor on you for the rest of your life. That can't be your security system. You've got to find something in you that enables you to move forward and not relapse back into your old habits. But I think that, serving out the balance of your sentence and taking those programs that are available will be a big step towards your being able to do that. But today my vote is to deny, but I wish you good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Williams,
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with everything that my colleague said this morning. You have to stop blaming everyone else, excusing your behavior. And you do need additional programming. You have a terrible anger management problem. By just looking at the list of arrests that you've had since 2009. Ms. Jones, I'd like you to add anger management to that list of programs that Mr. Johnson mentioned, Page, and some other programs. You seriously need to control your anger problem along with your substance abuse problem. A bad combination, substance abuse and anger. It will get you in trouble every time.
Yes, sir, it will.
And until you manage and make up your mind to control your substance abuse and your anger, and you're gonna only get that through programming, you're gonna fail. I choose deny your request.
All right, Ms. Williams, today your parole's been denied. We wish you well and encourage you to take advantage of the opportunities that will be afforded to you. Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you.
Another hearing where Mr. Mirabella would have been chomping at the bits. And because of that, let's hear an insert from our beloved Mr. Mirabella.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
Okay, I had to throw it in for good measures because, I mean, we have our favorite Miss Jackson and Mr. O'Shea, and I love the two of them together sandwiching Miss Renatsa, you know, except that she really missed the one part of her job that she's really good at, and that's to say, wrap it up about 3 minutes earlier than she said it this time. I don't know why she's so good at saying it when you're in the midst of a epic victim mic drop, but she seems to miss them sometimes when it's a rambling, nonsensical, I don't know, novel. And Miss Jackson said it best. Look, it's her son. You know, he's wearing bear goggles, pun intended, about his mother. But what he said was just so far off the point. And you know what's interesting to me is when the first 5 or 6 or 7 minutes of watching this hearing, I was sucked in by what I think turned out to just be pure manipulation. And I was like, man, you know, sometimes people just break. Sometimes people just snap and they go down a rough patch. And she had no record prior, and she's going through this marriage and then a divorce, and something snaps and she loses it. But then Miss Jackson calls her out. It's one thing to snap and lose it, and then it's another thing to how you react when you're in prison at your bottom, and to just try to lie and manipulate your way out of the situation. And that's what she did. And then we'll go through we'll go through the story of her last accident, which reflects what Mitch Jackson says. She's like, I had just one beer in my stomach. And it's like, you didn't have you were at more than 2 times the alcohol limit. I've been a judge I know what it is, these cases. You're lying. And also with the crying, it was, I think it was real crying, but also it was like, because if you realize how quickly she snapped out of it, as soon as it was like, boom, done. It was over. And I don't know the last time you cried, but it's hard to just snap out of it like that, as if it never happened. it's the good news is that we don't see anything on the record that she messed up. So this hearing took place March 2022. She was getting out in like 8 months, November 2022. Anyways, and now it's June 30th, 2024, June 27th to be exact, 2024. Don't see any indication that she's gotten an arrest. So maybe she just had to grow out of it. I don't know. But so a West Monroe woman was arrested for her 5th DWI Saturday night after she drove through a resident's home into their living room. They didn't touch on that, right? She drove into someone's living room. It's like one of those cartoons. West Monroe police were dispatched to a home on Trenton Street to report of a crash. According to the arrest report, Cheryl Williams, 51 of West Monroe, was driving on Trenton Street and crashed through a home. The vehicle, I love how they say that, vehicle caught fire, but West Monroe Fire Department was able to put it out. Officers spoke with Williams, who stated she was driving down Trenton Street and was unsure what happened next. William told officers she consumed 3 beers. Oh, look at how the story changed. Today it was 1 beer. Here it was 3 beers. Officers said they found beer in a cup in the front passenger seat of her vehicle. William told officers she had an interlock device on her vehicle, but not the one she was driving. Williams almost fell down twice while performing a standardized field sobriety test. But no, but it's her this, and she only has 1 beer and she becomes wasted. It's like, wow. Williams was arrested and booked in Ouachita Correctional Center with 1 count of operating a vehicle while intoxicated, 4th or 5th offense, 1 count of careless operations, and 1 count of possession of alcoholic beverages in motor vehicle. And remember, like, some judge said, you know what, you're dangerous, we're going to give you an interlock device, but that didn't stop her. Now here's an update to the article, and again, thank you, Richard, for putting this in here. This is written from the perspective of the homeowner. Boom! And I look up and there's a truck and our alarm is going off and honking, lights flashing, and it's parked in my living room, homeowner Megan Roberts said. Roberts said what she experienced late Sunday night still feels like a dream. Her front yard is covered in tire marks, showing where a woman drove her car and plowed into Roberts' home. Parts of the truck still litter the lawn after the woman, who police said has 5 DUIs, lost control and ended up in Roberts' living room. The suspect, a 51-year-old Sherry Williams, arrest report said she told police she had 3 beers, but they claim she blew an 0.17, more than twice the legal limit. And here's something interesting where this is someone else who's commenting. That night, as I said, my life changed. Mothers Against Drunk Driving spokesperson Vanessa Braggs-Reed said, Braggs-Reed lost half of her family. This is just a commentator who's talking. After they were hit head on by a drunk driver. Because it pinned me and my husband in the car, it crushed our seat loose, and it crushed my boys. They were 9 and 7. Oh my God. And it's just reading that which makes me like readjust how I feel about these sentences. And I know many of you watching this are victims yourselves, have relatives that have been affected by drunk driving. But even to think that she only got a 10-year sentence, she was sentenced what was this in like 20, I mean, she got out, I guess, after serving 6 years. And it's like, someone might say, well, why not just give her life? Like, is it worth the risk? Many people But at the same time, so far, 2 years later, she's not in trouble. Braggs Reed said, many people need to realize every time they take a drink and go behind the wheel, lives could be lost, like your family. Back on Trenton Street, the Roberts were fortunate. Megan's husband and one of 3 sons home at the time were left uninjured by the incident. It could have been really bad. You need to be aware of what's going on. Don't drink and drive because it's really bad. Yeah. And this woman had no remorse. There's another thing she did. She was convicted in 2012 of insurance fraud. So she worked as a windshield repair company, and she was making false claims. She made 80 alleged fraudulent claims. So, she wasn't just drinking and driving. She was perpetrating insurance fraud. She's got a long record, like they said, of DV. She had that story with the police officer. She has no accountability. She has an affair with the police officer, and her story is, oh, they told me that he would lose his job, so I had to admit to it. And it's like, BS. Can you imagine that poor police officer? He has an affair, and the next thing you know it, she's stalking him in his place. And oh my gosh, the headache that must have been. she's a like, it could, I don't know, maybe she did just simply snap at one point, or maybe she only, I don't know, but it's scary. It's really scary. And I don't know about you, but for me, yeah, she did manipulate me, I think, the first 5 minutes of the hearing. And it's these hearings that makes me very skeptical of it. Maybe, I don't know if some of you have seen, but I think I have become more and more distrusting and pessimistic as the years go on that I'm doing these parole hearings. I was much more, I think, at the beginning of this, forgiving and looking at the bright side. But I think I've become jaded, I think, because you see that there's an exception, but there's a certain kind of person that ends up getting locked up like this. And they seem to have some type of personality defect. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Been here for 46 minutes. We'll do one more hearing and then we'll go. So let's go. Now, I don't know about you, but I receive dozens of spam calls per day. So many that I had to set my phone to only allow calls from known numbers. Basically, if the contact isn't saved in my phone, I won't get the call. So this, of course, created so many problems. I actually didn't have my mother-in-law saved to my phone, so that's a story that we can get into at another time, but not good. And of course, it created issues with business calls. So, I was kind of just stuck between a rock and a hard place. I get so many calls nonstop. I mean, the vast majority of the phone calls that I receive are spam calls. It drives me nuts. But then that's what I found Aura, the sponsor of today's video. And I am proud to say that Aura is sponsoring Mandu. So I wanted to understand how my personal information was ending up in the hands of these spammers. And more importantly, how I would put a stop to it. With Aura, I receive alerts whenever my personal data is being sold on the dark web or by data brokers. Not only that, but Aura automatically removes my information from these data broker websites and helps me take action if it's exposed on the dark web. Now, this is especially crucial right now, given the recent AT&T data breach, where over 73 million customers were released on the dark web. AT&T recommends using strong passwords, monitoring account activity, and considering credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, guess what? Aura does all of that for me. And the best part is, I don't have to juggle multiple apps just because a company failed to keep my data secure. Aura is always looking in the background, ensuring my safety online so I can focus on what matters most without constantly worrying about my personal information falling into the wrong hands. I value my privacy, as you all know. I'm probably one of the more private YouTubers out there, and I value yours too. you can go to aura.com. I have my link below in the description to start your 2 free week trial. And as I think, the idea that we have such a renowned, prestigious, incredible company backing Mandu, backing our channel, backing this is, I think, just a massive breakthrough. And if we can show support to them, that would be huge. Now, I didn't just do this ad. I actually signed up for a full month with their service to see if it really works before I would recommend it to all of you. And it does. I am getting a fraction of the spam calls. I got 2 today when I usually get 15, 16. So it's already made a massive difference. And if you want to help support the channel, you can use the link below. If you want to help support Aura, you can use the link below. You want to stop those spam calls and sleep a little bit better at night, you can use the link below. And with that, we'll go back into the hearing.
Tell us your name and your DOC number, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is John Phillips, and my DOC number is 408864.
All right, and let me introduce us to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my left is Mr. Roche. To my right is Mrs. Jackson. Let me acknowledge the guests who are here with us today. We have your sister, Christina Phillips, and your sister and attorney, Miss Alicia Phillips. Miss Alicia, you want to introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Alicia Phillips Kelly on behalf of Mr. John.
Okay, great, thank you. So let me explain the process to you, Mr. Phillips. We're here for a revocation decision. I'm going to read the allegations against you, after which you'll enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. Then we'll have some questions for you, and we'll hear from your attorney, Miss Alicia. And then if you'd like, you can make a brief statement. Okay. You ready? You ready to begin?
I'm sorry, who are you talking to?
It looks like maybe there's a technical issue. Stand
ma'am.
by.
It
There
kind
you
of
go. Yeah, it did. It froze up a bit. So did you hear my explanation of how the process will go?
no, ma'am.
Okay,
It
so
goes up.
yeah, I'm going to read the allegations against you, after which you'll enter a plea to each allegation, guilty or not guilty. And then we'll be asking you some questions, and then we'll hear from your attorney. And at the end, you'll be allowed to make a statement if you'd like before we go. You
Yes,
ready?
ma'am.
All right. So do you have a parole questionnaire revocation? Parole revocation questionnaire. Do you have that document with you?
No, ma'am. I got a notice for this meeting, ma'am, but I haven't got no questionnaire.
All right, so there was a questionnaire that you completed. Just going to ask you the questions again. Maybe we can put it up on the screen. Hold on just a second. We'll put it up and see if you can confirm that for us.
Thank you.
There it is. You see that document?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature at the bottom of that page dated January 31st? Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually,
I'm sorry. You refused to sign it. I'm sorry. I was looking at the
yeah,
previous.
that's what I was saying. That's not my signature.
Yeah, you refused to sign it. Is that correct? 14.
Yes, ma'am. Until I speak to my lawyer, and it's fine.
Okay. All right. So, and you do have, I guess, retained counsel today.
Yes,
All right. So let me read the allegations against you. You're accused of violating condition number 4, in that on January 6, 2022, you were found in possession of drug paraphernalia during a residence check. How do you plead to violating condition number 4?
not guilty.
Condition number 13, violation of sex offender contract, in that on January 6, 2022, you violated section 4 of the sex offender contract by having direct contact with juveniles as evidenced by numerous pictures recovered from your phone and also by your own admission. How do you plead to violating condition number 13?
I guess I was guilty. I didn't know I was, but
All right. Well, so
Yes.
let's start off, let's have a conversation about condition number 4 with the possession of the drug paraphernalia. Do you have a statement you'd like to make?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I recently furnished my apartment, and I bought a grinder that's usually used for grinding weed, but it had some fancy little skulls on it. Had 3 of them, and it's never been used or anything. It just sat on my TV stand, just for
And it has
decoration.
a fancy what? It has
It's
a fancy for what?
it had some fancy skulls on it. It had 3 different color skulls, and I like skulls. That's skulls and dragons, I
Oh,
think.
skulls, okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's
So-
never been used though, ma'am. I don't use drugs. I've been going to Caring Choices for almost a year, and I get drug tested once or twice a week sometimes. And I go to meetings, and I'm on the Suboxone strips, and I'm very, very carefully watched because of that. And I keep a job, I have my own apartment, I have my own truck. I mean, I was doing really, really well. I really didn't know that I was violating the sexual offender law thing.
Well, wait, we're still on the grind.
Oh,
Okay.
my
So the notes that I'm reading say that this is what was said at your preliminary hearing,
yes, ma'am.
January 6th, the date that the grinder was found. The officer said that you admitted that you smoked some marijuana. And that the grinder, when he was doing the residence check, the grinder was found to have a green leafy-like substance, suspected residue of marijuana.
Ma'am, the grinder is still there. They didn't do nothing with it because there's nothing in it. He looked at it, smelled it, the other one looked at it, smelled it, and they put it right back. They didn't say
Yes.
nothing about nothing.
So was that discussed at your preliminary hearing?
Yes, ma'am. He said it. He looked at like it was a green leafy something that might be marijuana. I mean, how are we going on? Might be, ma'am.
Yeah, and did you tell the officer you had smoked marijuana or not?
No, ma'am. Not that day. No, ma'am.
At any time have you admitted to smoking marijuana?
Like where was it? Like a month before. I couldn't pee when he wanted me to pee. I couldn't pee in the cup, ma'am. And I told him, I said, look, I'm dirty. But
Yes.
and all that.
So let me ask you this. Why did you refuse the administrative sanction?
What you mean, ma'am? Administrative sanction?
That's when you were offered the opportunity, rather than to be here today for that violation, for a 3-day jail sanction.
I did. I came over here and did 3 days. That's what I was trying to tell you, ma'am. I came over here. I did 3 days. I signed a little paper coming over here. I had to turn myself in. I made all my fair straight with my boss and everything at Domino's. He come and got my truck and everything. He parked it at Domino's for me for when I would get out. Because I was a main employee. I ran half the store. You know, I make like 70 hours a week. And yeah, I already did time for that, man. And they doing it on me again, like double jeopardy. I'm like,
Okay.
I know.
So let's talk about number 13 and the children.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that. There were pictures on your phone. Tell us the circumstances.
I've been doing this for 25 years, ma'am. I've lived in Allen Parish, St. Leger Parish, and Evangeline Parish. And I never had to have no permission to go to my Christmas from my family's house. And I met my grandson for the first time, ma'am. Yeah, he's 6 years old. And I met my daughter for the first time. Because they didn't want to know me because I was on a lot of heavy drugs back in, you know, and coming in and out of jail and all this. And since I've been doing good, my sister convinced her, you know, she's been coming around my family now, and she hadn't been doing that in the past. She felt comfortable. And it was kind of an awkward situation having me and her there at the same time. But I mean, there was 9 adults there. My sister said it would be all right. And I think I get no trouble because I didn't think, you know, it had no written permission. I've never had to have that before. I mean, I've been doing this.
Now you know?
Yes, ma'am. Now I know, and now in the future, I'll make sure that I have written permission and I get something on the phone to prove it. I mean, it's so.
All right, let's, I don't have any other questions. I don't think my colleagues have questions. We'll hear from your sister now, Miss Phillips, or Miss Alicia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I've never attended a parole hearing, so I apologize. I was a public defender for over a decade. I've handled revocations, but that's about as far as my experience goes. I did want to talk on my brother's behalf because I did invite him for Christmas at the last minute. We hadn't spent one with him probably in 25 years. My family was excited because he was doing well. He told me he didn't know if he could come because there'd be kids there. And I told him, I said, well, Johnny, that's ridiculous. There's kids everywhere. We're going to be watching you. I didn't know he had to have written permission for that. I think he trusted me and he was excited to come, and he came. And I mean, he was in the living room. We were watching him the entire time. Now I know he has to have written permission. So that's what we'll do next time. But we would really like to have our brother back. He's been doing well. He's finally in our lives again. So we just would like to have him back. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips, anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Just like I said, I did that 3-day revocation. I really just told the officer what he wanted to hear. I said, look, I'm dirty for weed, but I really wasn't. I've been seeing Caring Choices for a year now, and they drug test me every week, sometimes twice a week to surprise me, because I go to meetings also as well as see the doctor. And she's my same doctor I went to at a 30-day program in Cheneyville. So she's been pretty much with me the whole time. I'm not gonna say it ain't been rough being out here in Pineville by myself in Alexandria, because but I put myself where there's no friends at, you know, because I know I'm weak. If I go back to Phil Flat, I don't even talk to anybody anymore, you know, just my family. It's good to have my family back, you know, and that's what I lost my mama last year in jail, and I couldn't even go to the funeral because of the virus. And I heard my dad just had bladder cancer and just had it removed, and he's 72 years, so I want to spend some time with him, you know.
All right.
All right.
Now, we're prepared to vote, and I'll go first. Mr. Phillips, I'm really, really glad to hear how well you're doing, and that you liked yourself program and you changed your environment and you're doing well. It's an unfortunate thing that happened with the pictures on your phone. I understand how that could happen. I understand how your sister thought that it was okay for you because there was plenty of adults around, but I'm really pleased you got to meet your daughter and your grandson. My vote today is do not revoke, return to supervision. Now that you've said you know the proper way to go about being able to be around your the minor children. So that's my vote, Ms. Jackson.
Right. Likewise, Mr. Phillips, I can certainly understand how the situation came about. But I also know having family support is so important. You can't live in isolation. You've isolated yourself from people that you used to associate with. And if there are children in your family, you know, I hate to see you isolated from them. Your family is willing to welcome you back. Apparently you've messed up a lot, disappointed them a lot, but they can see a change in you and you want to be part of your life. So my vote today would also be to not revoke. But I'm going to strongly admonish you, Mr. Phillips, that you must meet with your parole officer and get written permission from him or her to be able to be around your family with children if there is adult supervision. But today my vote is to not revoke you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Rachel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Phillips and Ms. Phillips, the attorney. I'm going to vote do not revoke also, okay?
Thank
Because
you.
it was mitigating circumstances. But I would like to give you a heads up. Not only does he have to get approval from his parole officer, that parole officer has to run it up to the ladder and get an approval from the committee on parole. So if you have any events or anything that you want him to attend, you need to do it early so that he can get permission to be in the company of juveniles under the age of 18.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
sir.
Appreciate
You'll be
y'all.
returned to supervision. Good luck to you, sir.
Ma'am,
Right, that's it, Jeff.
okay.
All right, I think that concludes, do we move now to RDC two?
Talk about nature versus nurture. His sister, who's a public defender for multiple decades. And then you have this guy. Now, this hearing took place in March of 2022. And guess what happened as soon as he was released? Thank you, Richard, for pulling up this information. But first, let's go through his record, I guess. He was convicted in 1999 of carnal knowledge of a juvenile, 11-year-old girl. And you know that when you're convicted of that, it was much worse. They do a plea deal. And he was released 4 years later because, it's just a child, right? And okay, then he got arrested again on 12/16/2021. He was arrested 2 months later on 2/14/2022 for this parole violation. He was released on March 5th, 2022, and arrested again. So he was arrested pretty much immediately after this parole hearing. Then he was released again on October 27, 2023, and arrested 2 months later on 12/11/2023 for resisting a police officer with violence. And he was officially convicted of that crime on 1/8/2024. So he's still in prison. So he's not just someone who likes little, children, but he is just an habitual convict. And he has his sister that gets up, and you can tell she's probably been coddling him his whole life. He doesn't sign the revocation form, which is incredibly rare. I don't know, maybe we've seen that a couple of times in Louisiana, because he says, I need my attorney to look at it first. And then his attorney sister actually says with a straight face, I had no idea that he couldn't be around children. We're going to obviously be there watching. And it's like, you're an attorney. You're a public defender. You don't know? You liar. Wow. Unbelievable. You want to just, I get it. I guess she's doing everything she can to protect her brother. She never thought that he would get caught. But what it was, he took pictures, and then the parole officer doing his job saw the pictures, and she goes, I had no idea. And it's scary, at a certain point, blood is blood, but you got to protect your family. You got to protect your kids. Sometimes it's sad, but you can't invite your brother over, especially if it's against the law. The irresponsible aspect of that, man. But hey, she was. I don't know. It is what it is. And then obviously it didn't help anyone. The guy continues to get arrest after arrest after arrest after arrest. He's got, I don't know if you saw the tattoos on his face. Wow, great life choices. But A great study too for the nature versus nurture thing. How you have two sides go those two separate ways is quite remarkable. You know, at the beginning, watching the parole hearing, I was almost like, okay, should they revoke? You know, it wasn't, it did seem like the most innocent kind of violation. You know, he's with the family thing. It's this, you know, is it, should they, but then when you see what happened just a few months later, arrest after arrest after arrest, it's like, yeah, maybe they just should have revoked. Anyways, we'll move to the next hearing. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments section.